Good afternoon. Certainly welcome to everyone to the Thursday, February 27th. This is briefing for the Thursday, February 27th, 2025 meeting. We have actually only one discussion item. Afterwards, we're going to talk about the Board of County Commissioner goals summary, that kind of a final copy that we hope to be able to review today and approve on Thursday. So with that said, I'll turn the meeting over to County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, Commissioner, staff, and guests. The agenda items before you will be taken into consideration for the February 27th meeting. Agenda item number 1 is a public hearing on the zoning petition of Edward Raymond Longbottom from RS9 to AG. Our Planning Director, Chris Murphy, will brief this item.
Good afternoon. Since this is a public hearing item, this was briefed about 10 days ago, but I will quickly go over this again. This is a request to rezone approximately 35 acres of property, the northern terminus of Quicksilver Drive and the western terminus of Tiger Eye Court, from RS9 to AG. This is the subject property shown on the Forsyth County Legacy Growth Management Plan map. It's located within GMA 3 and it's near the Forsyth County, Davidson County line in the south central portion of Forsyth County. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. You'll see that again it is located to the north of an existing development and a development that is currently under construction. It is primarily located within the floodplain. This is the subject property shown outlined in yellow on the countywide aerial imagery. Again, it's north of an existing subdivision, a subdivision that is under construction. And again, it is floodplain area primarily. Subject property shown on the South Suburban Area Plan update. It does have a single-family low-density 0 to 8 units per acre zoning recommendation, which AG does fit within that. But this would be considered a down zoning. This is the zoning sign looking north from Tiger Eye Court into the subject property. That's private access easement that goes back and serves this remnant lot. This is looking east from Beckel Road, again, into the subject property. The request is consistent with the recommendations of both the Forsyth County Farmland Protection Plan and the South Suburban Area Plan update. The request would limit development impacts on a site predominantly comprised of flood zone. The proposed AG zoning would allow an array of land uses which are generally compatible with the surrounding development pattern. This was heard at the January 9th, 2025 Planning Board public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and following that public hearing, the Planning Board did recommend unanimously to recommend approval as to the commissioners. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris?
Agenda item number 2 is Mr. Murphy's as well. It's a public hearing on the site plan amendment of Clay Pigeon Properties, LLC.
Again, this one was briefed on Thursday a week ago. This is an almost 17-acre piece of property located at the southeast intersection of Stanleyville Drive and Montlou Drive, and the request is to go from a 28-lot single-family subdivision in RS20S zoning to a 23-lot single-family PRD in RS20S zoning. So this is a site plan amendment. It is a reduction of the total number of lots, but based on the substantial change in design, staff felt like this should come back to the commissioners for your approval. Subject property shown on the countywide growth management area plan. It is located within GMA 5. Subject property highlighted in yellow. Again, it's on the south side of Stanleyville Drive across from Montlou. It is located within the Rural Hall Area Plan update, and it does have a single-family residential 0 to 8 unit per acre recommendation. So this request is consistent with that. This is looking southeast into the subject property from Stanleyville Drive. This is looking northeast along Stanleyville, should be Drive. Subject property is to the right. This is looking southwest on Stanleyville Drive. The subject property is to the left. This is looking northwest from subject property across Stanleyville towards Montlou Drive. This is the site plan that they are proposing. Again, 23 lots, single loaded, So that means that the road is on one side of the property, and these are long linear lots. It's my understanding they're doing this for a sewer reason. This is the plan that the commissioners had originally approved. It had the road more in the center of the property. It had the street double loaded, and like I said, it had 5 more lots. It was 28. But they have come back and determined that based on some site constraints, this is their best design. So again, from the departure that the commissioners approved, we felt like it was best to bring this back to you, even though it is a decrease in the total number of lots. Again, it is consistent with both Legacy 2030 and the Rural Hall Area Plan Update. The request does propose fewer lots than what was previously approved. And again, this would create additional home ownership opportunities within Forsyth County. Again, this was heard at the planning board meeting on January 9th of 2025. There were no speakers in opposition, and following that, the planning board did vote unanimously to recommend approval to the commission. With that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris?
I have a question, but not about these. Sort of general question, I guess.
Go ahead.
On signs, if you got a zoning matter that's occurring off of the main corridor and it's at the end of a dead-end street or dead-end streets, if it's one or more than one, is a zoning sign only placed at the dead end of the street and not one up at a main corridor that goes by the street?
Each case is handled differently. I mean, in this case, there is, again, just looking at this one, there is no dead end on this one. Generally speaking, you have to post the property, and then generally speaking, if it's at the back of a subdivision, there's normally signage that's put at the front of the subdivision as well that would give folks notice as they're driving in.
Well, maybe the reason I'm asking the question, because we got something, not these, coming up, and if there is a sign that placed, the zoning is occurring at the back of a existing subdivision. The signs are there at the end of the streets, but I pass by regularly. And the ones up, I thought that they're the way you usually do, that one would be up on the main road going in, because we have had in the past, not recently, people to say that there was not the people that's going in on the street, or even at the ones that lives up at the end of or starting of the street going in, even though it's dead end, and the signs are placed at the end, it's conceivable that the ones that lives up next to the entrance of that street would not see that, but they would know about it because of the
If we're talking about Martin and Avali, I feel like there were signs that were posted out there. Now, whether they're still there or not, I don't know, with construction and other things, but I'll be glad to look at that.
It is very likely that they succumb to the construction that's going on. So if there should be signs there, I just wonder if it wouldn't be a good idea to put one there so someone wouldn't be able to say, well, you didn't put one there.
Whenever I sit back down, I'll take a look at the map from the planning board, because it has, if you notice here, it has where the signs are located on the map in front of you right here. It has the little S right there. So in my planning board book, it should have where the signs are supposed to be. Now, like I said, they could have been removed, but I'll look at that and I'll let you know.
Okay, well, let me know before in the morning. I got to go and get my eyes checked, and so I might need to change glasses. I don't know.
Understood.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chris?
Agenda item number 3 is Mr. Murphy's as well. It's a public hearing on the zoning petition of Nancy and Prospero Carrasco from GI to RS40.
Thank you again. This is a little over 3-acre piece of property located at the eastern terminus of Hammock Farm Road. Again, a request to rezone from GI to RS40. This is the fourth in a series of 4 that the commissioners have considered along this road over the last several years. Again, this is the subject property shown on a Legacy Growth Management Area Plan map. It is located within GMA 3, which is Suburban Neighborhoods Growth Management Area. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. Each of those parcels to the south-southwest that are now zoned RS40 have come through this process to rezone from GI to RS40. GI does not allow single-family residential. However, under the old zoning system, if you had the most intense zoning, you had every use that was allowed in the ordinance. And this was probably I3 whenever it was originally zoned back in the 60s, which would have allowed single-family homes. Well, under the Unified Development Ordinance, it doesn't allow single-family homes. So therefore, if you want to make an addition to your house, do any of those kind of things, you're considered legally non-conforming, and you get one such expansion. So this is, it makes sense to rezone this from GI to RS40. It puts it consistent with the use, and it puts it consistent with the other properties along Hammock Farm Road. Subject property highlighted, outlined in yellow on the countywide aerial imagery. This is the subject property shown on the Walkertown Area Plan update. It does recommend single-family residential as the land use category, and it is that land use. It's just not zoned. If you notice, there is a large area of industrial zoning that is on this map, and that is the car hauling place there, Norfolk Southern, located between Old Walkertown and New Walkertown roads. And I imagine this zoning was probably a remnant of that from back in the 60s. This is looking east from Hammock Farm Road at the subject property. You do see the zoning sign. You see the subject property, the house that is located on the subject property. This is looking west back down Hammock Farm Road. You do see some of those other single-family homes that have previously been rezoned from GI to RS40. In summary, this request would provide greater flexibility in reusing an existing single-family home. The request would eliminate incompatible high-intensity industrial zoning within an established single-family neighborhood. The request is consistent with both the Walkertown Area Plan update and with Legacy 2030. Again, this was heard at the Planning Board at their January 9th, 2025 public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and following the public hearing, the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval. And with that, I'm glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Chris?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Agenda item number 4 is an approval of minutes from the meeting of February 13th, and that was emailed to you last week. Agenda item number 5 is an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate $47,500 of restricted fund balance for the airport terminal fencing project and an associated amendment to the 2018 Smith Reynolds Airport CPO to appropriate funds for the project. Will Fulbright from the Budget Office will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Smith Reynolds Airport has received funding in the amount of $2,093,000 for 2 projects consisting of $2 million for the control tower and $93,000 for terminal fencing. The $2 million is 100% funded through the Federal Aviation Administration, while the terminal fencing is partially funded through the FAA. The terminal fencing will cost approximately $140,500, requiring an additional $47,500 beyond the FAA funding. The purpose of this action is to appropriate $47,500 from the airport's restricted fund balance to transfer to the CPO in order to fund the terminal fencing project, as well as the $2,093,000 in federal grant funding. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Will?
Agenda item number 6 is an amendment to the Justice Assistance Grant Project Ordinance to appropriate $8,000 in JAG 2023 grant interest earnings. Randy Hunsucker from the Sheriff's Office will brief this item.
Thanks, Chantel. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members. This grant budget amendment appropriates, updates the original grant project budget to account for interest earnings received since the funds were originally drawn down at the time of the award. This will allow the Sheriff's Office to report these program earnings to the Department of Justice, amend the grant budget through the Department of Justice, and use actual interest earnings as per the grant award. The program income will be shared equally between the Police Department and the Sheriff's Office. The police department intends to purchase in-vehicle printers, and the sheriff's office intends to purchase a scope on a rifle for the SWAT team. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Randy? Thank you.
And I do want to say, in the event Randy is not here on Thursday, I do want to publicly thank him for all of his hard work. Randy is retiring on Friday.
Wow.
Agenda item number 7 is an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to increase revenues and appropriations for the Forsyth County Department of Public Health from the National WIC Association. Nicole Priddy from the Public Health Department will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Department of Public Health is asking for an amendment to the current fiscal year budget for the WIC program to appropriate $8,000 in grant money awarded from the National WIC Association to be used to translate written nutritional educational materials into commonly encountered languages other than Spanish. Currently, the program serves about 65 families who speak a language other than English or Spanish. Some examples of the language most frequently encountered are Arabic, Karini, and Burmese. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Nicole?
Arabic, Karini, and Burmese.
Got a question?
Yeah, some of our next door neighbors are Karenni families. I have wondered whether this program has been impacted by any of the disruptions from Washington yet.
Not currently, no.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wilson, do you speak both those languages along with your other 5? Thank you.
Agenda item number 8 is an amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance to appropriate $43,750 from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services for Agreement Addendum 534, Integrated Targeted Testing Services. Joshua Swift, our Public Health Director, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance appropriates $43,750 in expenditures and revenues to the Health Department from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services under AA 534 Integrated Target Testing Services. It's the intention of the Department of Public Health to use these funds to refurbish our Posse mobile van, which is a unit used for community-based STI testing. Have any questions?
Questions for Joshua?
Josh, I don't have any particular questions about this agenda item, but I do know that the Forsyth County has an uptick in terms of the sexual transmitted disease. What are we doing to address that?
Yes, well, we're taking this unit and working. We have, that last fall, we worked with our schools, our colleges. We did Storm the Dorm, where we went into the dorm rooms, actually shadowed our team at one of the colleges last fall. We're also, doing our regularly testing out into the community and trying to be, one of the efforts is we're seeing the uptick in certain areas, and we're trying to make sure that we focus our education and our testing in those specific areas.
Thank you. Good to know.
All right. Thank you.
Agenda item number 9 is a resolution approving a revision to the fiscal year 25 Home and Community Care Block Grant County Funding Plan for older adults and authorizing execution of necessary documents to submit the revised plan for state approval. Kyle Wolf, our Budget Director, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Forsyth County Aging Services Planning Committee is recommending a revision to the FY25 Home and Community Care Block Grant County Funding Plan based on a request by Senior Services to shift $6,000 from adult day health to adult day care. And so this is really just kind of a formality of accepting that so we can send it to the state for approval.
Questions for Kyle?
I admit to ignorance. What's the difference between adult day health and adult day care?
So adult day care, my understanding is it is group care and supervision in a place other than where somebody lives to adults who are either physically or mentally disabled. And adult day health is like programming services during the day in a community group setting for the support of older adults with disabilities. So one is that's just straight from their website. I don't know, but I can get
one
something.
is that's related to a program with healthcare. The other is simply a place to be.
Programming, right. That's correct.
Agenda item number 10 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract, and there are several automotive items, so I won't read each one. I'll just let our General Services Director, Scott Angel, go through each item as he's presenting.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As the manager said, we're requesting approval to execute contracts with multiple vendors for the purchase of 21 vehicles of various make and models for use in the county's fleet across several departments, and the purchase of 3 new ambulances and 4 new cab and chassis units with remount of ambulance bodies for use by emergency services. The proposed vehicles are planned to replace existing vehicles with high mileage, ongoing mechanical issues, or that have been wrecked and deemed a total loss within the county fleet, with the exception of 1 ambulance, which will be an add to the fleet and was budgeted for within the Emergency Services Department. The agenda item consists of 5 resolutions, with each awarding a contract to a specific vendor for the purchase of vehicles. So under item A, General Services is requesting approval to purchase 4 2025 Chrysler Voyager minivans for use by the library, MIS, and emergency services. 1 2025 Dodge Durango SUV for use by emergency services, and 1 2025 Dodge Ram 3500 truck for use by emergency services. All these vehicles are proposed for purchase from Horace G. Ilderton, LLC, under the terms of contracts awarded to Ilderton either by the North Carolina State Contract Purchasing Program or the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Contract Purchasing Program. The unit price for the Chrysler Voyager minivan is $40,384, which is based on the bid awarded to Ilderton by the state of North Carolina under Contract Award 2510A. The total cost for 4 Voyagers is $161,536. The unit price for the Dodge Durango is $38,240, and the unit price for the Dodge Ram 3500 truck is $58,927. And the price of the Durango and the 3500 truck are each based on the bid awarded to Ilderton by the North Carolina Sheriff's Association under Award 25-11-0912. So the total cost for the 6 vehicles is $258,703. And this resolution awards a contract to Horace G. Ilderton, LLC, for the purchase of the previously described 6 vehicles in the total amount of not to exceed $258,703. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this item.
I have a quick question on the EMS Durango. And the quick question really is, some years ago, when we actually began, we were talking about these Durangos for EMS, and we had a discussion about 8-cylinder engines and 6-cylinder engines. And we got either one of both. We got 1 6 and 1 8, or 2 of each. And I noticed this was a 6-cylinder, which made me happy because I'm assuming that people are okay with the 6-cylinder performance, because we had a lot of angst when that was done, that we needed a bigger, slightly bigger engine, more powerful, and one that would take the abuse, because these are, as I understand it, they run a lot with equipment that's inside them, and probably the 8 was better than the 6, and of course the 8 was more expensive. So I was pleased to see that the 6-cylinder is on this list, and I didn't want to assume that I'm right about that. Has that really been, have we really had good experience with the 6-cylinders?
Yeah, as far as I know, I haven't had any recent conversations about that with anybody, but I don't know if anybody back there wants to comment on that.
Good afternoon. As far as the 8-cylinder versus the 6, we found that they're both performing just the same. So there's really no benefit to buying the 8 versus the 6.
Good news. Thank you.
Questions?
Any other questions for Scott or our EMS folks?
I have one.
Thank you.
The MX-170 Ford E450s, is that the chassis and the body also together?
That's the last item that we'll brief, I believe, or the next to the last item we'll brief. So
Okay.
we'll get to that. We might answer your questions as well.
Thank you.
That's okay.
All right, no more questions on A. Ready for B.
Under item B, General Services is requesting approval to purchase 3 2025 Ford Police Interceptors for use by the Sheriff's Office. The 3 Interceptors are proposed for purchase from Clinton Automotive LLC under the terms of the contract awarded to the dealer by the North Carolina State Contract Purchasing Program. These vehicles have a V6 hybrid engine, but otherwise they're essentially the same as previously purchased Interceptors. The unit price of the Interceptor is $41,836.19, and the total cost for the 3 units is $125,508.57. So this resolution awards a contract to Clinton Automotive LLC for the purchase of 3 Ford Police Interceptors in the total amount not to exceed $125,508.57. Be happy to answer any questions you might have on this item.
I have one. I just happened to notice the options that are selected on those, which all routine except the first one, which was the engine size, which said it was going to be a hybrid. And I was just a little surprised. I didn't know we had hybrids in these Interceptors or whatever.
This is our first purchase of hybrids in the Interceptor, but we do have other vehicles and have for a while that are hybrids. But this is our first venture into Interceptors.
The reason they're the most expensive. I was just kind of curious why we were experimenting with that.
Yeah, I think there was conversation between fleet staff and Sheriff's Office staff. These are going to be transportation vehicles. They'll have a lot of driving. So there was some thought that there may be some benefit to, having something that would use less fuel. I think it really came down to that.
Yeah, I didn't see the efficiency thing. This is just a list of what the options are. So do you recall or have an idea what the difference in the
I'm sorry, I
fuel
don't have
part?
that off the top of my head, but certainly be happy to circle
I'm
back
just
to
kind
you.
of curious, but I was curious. I'd never noticed that before.
Gotcha. Sure, we'll be happy to provide that.
Any other questions for Scott? Good, ready for C.
All right. For item C, General Services is requesting approval to purchase 1 2025 Chevrolet 1500 Silverado truck for use by General Services, 7 2025 Chevrolet Trax SUVs for use by Tax, Public Health, Library, General Services, Sheriff's Office, and Social Services, and 4 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 trucks for use by Emergency Services. All of these vehicles are proposed for purchase from Modern Chevrolet under the terms of the contract awarded to Modern by the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Contract Purchasing Program. The unit price for the Silverado 1500 is $38,310.96, and again, we're purchasing one of those. The unit price for the Trax SUV is $20,361.11. I'm looking to purchase 7 of those. The unit price for the Silverado 2500 truck is $48,978.56, and we're looking to purchase 4 of those units. The total cost for the 12 vehicles is $376,752.97. So this resolution awards a contract to Modern Chevrolet LLC for the purchase of the previously described 12 vehicles in a total amount not to exceed $376,752.97.
Any questions? Have any on that one?
Okay, thank you. Under item D, the Emergency Services Department is requesting approval to purchase 3 Deemers MX-170 Ford E450 ambulance units with graphics and Stryker power load system installation. The 3 ambulance units are proposed for purchase from Spartan Fire and Emergency Apparatus Incorporated under the terms of the contract awarded to Spartan by the Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Program under contract award AM 10-23. All 3 ambulances are demo units. One ambulance has a unit price of $274,591. The other 2 ambulances have a unit price of $286,496. And when we asked Spartan about the difference in the price, which is about $12,000, they attributed it to the 2 units being ordered 7 to 8 months after the first unit was purchased. And there was some escalation there from Ford on the E450 as well as from Deemers on their upfit of the vehicle. And then they also attributed the pricing difference to a couple of configuration differences between the units. So basically different options or different equipment that the two had that the one didn't. The total cost for the 3 ambulances is $847,583. And as I mentioned earlier, 2 of the ambulances are replacement vehicles, and 1 will be an add to the fleet that was budgeted for by emergency services. And I'll note that the Stryker power load system and cots will be purchased by the county and provided to Spartan for installation. And emergency services is actually briefing an item today regarding that purchase. So this resolution awards a contract to Spartan Fire and Emergency Apparatus Incorporated for the purchase of 3 Deemers MX-170 ambulance units with graphics and Stryker power load system installation in a total amount not to exceed $847,583. So I know he had a question on that. Want to?
Yep, go ahead.
Well, in regard to the Ford units, the problem that we have had in the past with the engines, does that stuff get corrected?
Yeah, I'm not sure what specific problems we're talking about here, but are you talking about from the manufacturer or issue?
Yeah, yes, it's been a while back. It's been 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, you know all about it.
Brian Bowling, our fleet
They
supervisor.
Commissioners. Yes, sir. So the EA450s did have an issue with the oiling problem in the motors, so we did lose a couple. They all got replaced under warranty, thankfully. But that has been fixed now, hopefully. They took a baffle or something out of the oil pan to correct the issue there. So that should allow us to move forward now with a better engine than what we had in the past.
Well, didn't some of them actually have just a problem with just stop running? I don't know what it all was, but it was not limited to what Forsyth County had. There was a lot of Ford vehicles that had it. So I just wondered if that problem had been corrected, because for a while after that, and you probably still got some of them, they ended up getting the Chevrolet GMs. I don't know how many of them you got, but
Yes, sir, that was part of that problem, the case study, where vehicles would just shut down or lose power completely. So they would actually lose the bottom end of the engine, causing engine failure.
Okay, I just wondered if those problems that you had had been corrected. I didn't know exactly. I mean, not specifically by the county, but manufacturer.
Yes, sir, yeah, it has been corrected by the manufacturer. They've even went as far as to extend the warranty on some of the previous ambulances that we have now to help cover those issues they were to arise versus what, they got out there now in the market.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And my only question was, I'm assuming that the reason that we're in this Galveston purchasing group out of Texas is because that was the closest one that we could find. They must have had some stock and nobody else did.
It really did come down to availability. Our emergency services folks kind of led the effort on locating these units, and it really is what it came down to. The one unit is available now, I believe, and the other 2 will be available in May. So they're pretty quick turnaround in getting those.
Got it. Any other question for Scott?
I just have one. Scott, what is the total cost for A, B, C, D, and E?
Oh, gosh.
A lot.
I don't have it broken down like that. I'm sorry. But
Maybe that's why you did it.
No, I didn't even think about
Well
adding
over
them
$1
up like that. But we can certainly figure that out. Somebody got a calculator.
You can tell me next week.
He'll have it in a second.
Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, for item E, the Emergency Services Department is requesting approval to purchase 4 Ford E450 cab and chassis units with the remount of ambulance bodies. The 4 cab and chassis units are proposed for purchase from Emergency Transportation Associates, LLC, under the terms of the contract awarded to the vendor by the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Contract Purchasing Program. The unit price for the new cab and chassis with remount is $193,330.25. So the total cost for the 4 cab and chassis with remounts is $773,321. So this resolution awards a contract to Emergency Transportation Associates LLC for the purchase of 4 Ford E450 cab and chassis units with remount of ambulance bodies in the total amount not to exceed $773,321. Answer any questions you may have.
Any questions on item E?
So that I'm clear, and I'm just ambulance for dummies, how about that? For the 4 corrections here, where will they be located? Or where are we making the corrections for these ambulances?
When you
The
say,
chassis? Are we
when you say
replacing?
making corrections,
Probably shouldn't say corrections, but we're replacing the chassis.
yes. So they will actually,
Are
you're
they in
asking
a
where
particular area in Forsyth County?
No, these are actually, ETA is actually located in Deep Gap, North Carolina, which is outside of Boone.
Yeah, but they're going to be replacing vehicles, the ambulance.
So we will take
that we-
vehicles, old vehicles there, they will take the box off and remount it to the new chassis.
Yeah, and when they come back, where are they going? Inventory, where are they going in the county?
Oh, which,
Clemens, Louisville?
oh, I don't know which
Winston-Salem?
specific station they'll be at. I don't know if we know that.
No, they'll just go to any station. They could go to Station 8, which is in downtown. They'll just be in addition to the fleet so that we can use them
Okay,
throughout the town.
fair
They
enough.
don't have a particular location.
For where they go. All right, that was helpful, thank you.
Sorry for my confusion.
That's okay, no worries.
Commissioner Wisenhut, I can talk to you about quick math here. I didn't double check it. So $2,381,868.54.
Thank you.
And I recognize that seems like a lot, but previously we would give you 2 here, 3 here, 5 here. And so we're trying to be a little bit more proactive and bulk them together so that we're assessing our vehicle purchases. So you'll start seeing these probably a couple times a year, more in bulk, unless there's other types of emergencies.
Yeah, we're kind of thinking right now, hopefully going forward, a fall and spring type cycle. We'll see how that works out, but that's what we're thinking.
It's fine.
I got one other little short question on that. I don't know how long all these, just like the Sheriff's Association, how often are they updating their prices? I mean, for example, they can have the best prices going because they do their own internal bidding. It's available, we don't have to bid it. So they're doing, and let's say they lock in something in June and it lasts for 8 months. Well, in the fall, for example, you might be able to buy directly from, you could rebid again. I mean, that used to be a problem on state price contract. The state price contracts, the term was so long, they were good, they were great at the beginning, but you could actually go to the vendor. I remember this was in computers. You could go to the vendor and actually get a better price than the state price contract on things because the terms were so long.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about these because we're relying a lot on their bidding work. And if it's not done frequently and we're not checking, that can become an issue.
Yeah, most of the contracts I've seen are about a year in term. I don't know about any extension language or what's involved with that. That's a very good question.
I mean, that could be an issue. Now,
Very good
in vehicles, it may not be. It may not be as subject to that volatility. In fact, they may do nothing but go up, just like in the ambulance. An ambulance that was been there a little bit longer, and it was $12,000 cheaper, and it's the same ambulance. Basically, with maybe it wasn't clear in the materials to me what the difference in the options were, but maybe that bears a little more checking too. I mean, we rely a lot on the Sheriff's Association, and I think maybe that needs to be checked. And by the way, do we pay a fee to the Sheriff's Association? And it seems like there's a fee on the Galveston one.
There is. And I was
so
actually.
you get into that, now we're getting into, that they're making money on the fees, and you get into, how much ultimately, it's kind of the total cost of ownership when you get it. I mean, a purchase, it's really not ownership, it's the cost of purchasing.
Yeah, when I saw the HGAC fee, it reminded me that I had actually wanted to look into the Sheriff's Association fee structure and what that looked like. And I was actually trying to find that coming into this meeting. I haven't found that yet, but I have the same question, and I'm trying to find that answer.
Yeah, and is the fee different if you're buying 20 vehicles versus 10 vehicles? Et cetera,
Yeah, I know
et cetera.
HGAC's fee, I was actually reading some of their policies last week, and their fee is based on the number of purchase orders. So I don't know if Sheriff's Association is the same or not, but I'm interested to find out.
Yeah, it just seems to me that's bears some more investigating.
Agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 11 is a resolution awarding a contract for the purchase of 3 MTS Power Load MTS Power Pro COT systems from Stryker Sales LLC for Forsyth County Emergency Services. Andrew Davis, our Emergency Services Deputy Chief, will brief this item.
Thanks, Chantel. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So this item authorizes the purchase of 3 Stryker stretcher systems to go on the 3 ambulances that were recommended by General Services. The cost of the 3 stretcher systems with tax and freight is $185,171.37. Purchasing these directly from Stryker versus going through the ambulance vendor, it's going to save the county approximately $7,500. Emergency Services currently uses Stryker systems in all of the 28 ambulances we have in the fleet. These stretchers are being priced through the Sourcewell Co-op contract. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
And we said earlier that of the ambulances, 2 are basically, I guess, replacements and 1's an expansion.
Yes.
So we're getting 3 new Stryker ambulances. So are we going to retire 2 of the Strykers that we have, the COTs that we have?
So those 3 ambulances in the companies that we're going through now, before they mounted all of those together. So they mounted it was all part of the price. Whereas going through the vendor now, if we go separate and go through Stryker, then we can save money. Versus before, we would have just went through the one company and they would have did it all.
So the Stryker units, these are the fancy
Yes.
power stretcher, whole deal, which is a big time deal. So we can't on an older ambulance that we have, an older one that we have, are you saying you can't, the Stryker units are not interchangeable? You can't put them on the?
Let me have Chief Swain come up here.
You see what I'm getting at?
Right, yes, sir, I do. He can
I'm
speak
getting
more.
at, are we getting?
No, you're right. He can speak more to it.
So the Stryker units are interchangeable. However, the parts wear out over time. So if we remount a truck every 5 years, you have to think that stretcher equipment has been used for 5 years, and that's maybe 24 calls a day times 365 days a year, so that stuff wears out. And Stryker recommends that we replace it every 4 to 5 years, because after that, they can't say that it'll be sufficient. And the last thing we want to do is put a citizen on a stretcher in a power load, and that power load fails, and they fall to the ground.
Yeah, well, is it 4 years or 5 years?
They say 4 to 5 years. I think it depends on the use, and we use ours pretty hard, pretty regularly.
I got it. I hear you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I looked at Stryker units online, and there are 26 different options for a Stryker powerlift stretcher system, running from a couple of $1,000s up to $62,000. So it appears from at least what's online that you're getting top of the line here. Is that correct?
We are getting top of the line for what we are using.
What does it do that the others don't? I'm all in favor of it, but I just would like to know what it does.
Not knowing what exactly you looked at, I can't really answer the question. I do know that the systems we use are reducing wear and tear on our people, because with the press of a button, they can lift up to 700 pounds. So our folks are not having to lift that weight. Some of the newer stretchers that are coming out will also lift a little bit more than that. And quite frankly, in a few years, we'll be back saying, hey, we need these newer ones, because Stryker is going to stop supporting the systems that we currently have. But again, not knowing exactly what you looked at, I couldn't really tell you exactly what the...
Do the top of the line wear out quicker than those that are more modest?
I think it goes back to just how much you use it and how hard you use it. I guess You could maybe equate it to the suspension in your vehicle. You may have the top-of-line suspension, but if you drive 100,000 miles a year, that suspension is going to wear out just as quick as the regular, I would imagine. But we do have regular maintenance with the Stryker folks, and we call them weekly to come check our stuff.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Agenda item number 12 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of certain radio equipment for the school system from Motorola Solutions, Inc. Wesley Hutchins from our Interagency Communications Department will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The resolution before you is to authorize the county manager to sign an amendment to the current radio system upgrade contract between the county and Motorola Solutions. This amendment will authorize the purchase of radio equipment for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System at the negotiated pricing contained within the existing contract. Attached to this resolution is a quote from Motorola for the specific equipment needed by the school system for an amount not to exceed $1,691,042.25. And this quote is based off the contract pricing. The funding for this purchase is part of an approved $1,706,805 appropriation to the school system in their FY25 budget for the purchase of new radios. This approved funding was transferred to the 2020 Radio System Upgrade, CPO, via an amendment presented by the budget manager and approved by the board this past September 19th. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I know the school district will be happy.
They're very overdue for some good radio equipment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 13 is a resolution authorizing execution of a revenue agreement amendment with Partners Health Management for the provision of non-clinical support of Family and Children's Division youth housed internally, and an associated amendment to the fiscal year 25 budget ordinance. Cindy Firkin from Social Services will brief this item.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Ms. Robinson, Ms. Matthews. In an effort to assist Forsyth County with the expenses related to the housing of foster care youth in the DSS building, awaiting appropriate placements, Partners Health Management desires to increase the funding in the current revenue contract. The original reimbursement was not to exceed $50,000. The amendment would add an additional $125,000, thus $175,000 through the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. And the payroll and food expenses from July through October totaled $49,385, and Partners has been invoiced for these expenses. And based on past expenses and future projections, the additional $125,000 should cover expenses for children housed in the DSS building through June 30th, 2025. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have a rough idea what that sort of breaks down into a cost per night per person that we're basically providing in our place that we're housing? What is that kind of? Do you know what that kind of breaks down to? I'm sure it depends on the salary level of the person that's working, but there's clearly you've got enough data to calculate an average. I'm just kind of curious what it costs us to house somebody for
the high end, your payroll expenses, of course, are your most expensive. There are food expenses involved. And based on per month, we're spending $12,500. We currently have 3 children in the building. And when we find an appropriate placement for behavioral health needs, and we're able to place these children, within a few days, it seems that we have another child in the building. So on a regular basis, there's either 2 or 3 children in the building at all times.
So is the staff? Obviously this is a problem from a human side. I'm just talking about the dollars and cents side. So I'm not ignoring the human side of this thing for the children involved, but from an economical side, does it take the same? If you have the 3 children now, would the staff change if you went to just 1 child?
Yes, sir.
So you really have like 1 staff with 1 person?
depending
child?
upon behavioral health needs.
But it's probably close to that, one-on-one. It's kind of a one-to-one.
It is. It is.
But
And I'm happy-
overnight, we would never just have one adult with a child. We would always have two.
So that could be, so with two children, the price actually per child at night is cheaper because with just one, you would have two.
We would have
two staff.
We would have two staff per child overnight, and we also have a contract with a company that comes in. So if we have the contractor comes, then we may have one staff, but that's still an additional cost that we charge partners to reimburse us for.
Let me get this straight. So who is not who particularly, but what does a contractor do?
They are a therapeutic type of provider. They're not a residential facility, but they provide therapeutic services. And so because our staff is not trained or equipped to do that. And so it's a therapeutic provider that comes in and tries to work with the children when they are available.
And that would be like during the day.
Or also overnight sometimes. They will be available and stay.
You could get some rough averages on the economic side, but
Yeah, we'll work on some average cost per night and email that to you.
I didn't realize it was quite that that the numbers were that high. We just had our legislative delegation in today, and we talked about this problem and a potential solution, which is freeing up the opportunity if you're a level 2, care center. You could actually take a more involved child, and if they were relieved of both the liability piece and able to recover some other things, because that would be clearly a level 2 center is a lot better equipped than we are. So if we had a level 2 placement that could be, found for a week or 3 weeks or whatever it would be, is better than those, young people staying with us and where we're not equipped to provide that housing. So this the numbers, I didn't realize the numbers were at that, because you're talking, might be just interesting to look at that a little bit more, both maybe a look back for a year and kind of get an idea how many young people there were and what our kind of cost is per night on that, on the average.
I'll get that information to you.
That'd be interesting.
Any other
to see.
questions?
Other questions? Sorry.
Yeah, we'll follow up with data. At times we have no one and we'll go months and it's great, and then we've been in a not great streak lately. So thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 14 is a resolution authorizing execution of a lease agreement between Forsyth County and Partners Health Management for lease of 4,891 square feet of county-owned real property located at 650 Highland Avenue. Emily Monday from our General Services Department will brief this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This item is for approval of a lease agreement between Forsyth County and Partners Health Management for lease of 4,891 square feet of office space located at 650 Highland Avenue. This is a 3-year lease beginning March 1st of 2025 and expiring February 29th, 2028. The total rent amount for year 1 is $29,101.45. Years 2 and 3 are adjusted using the CPI rate. The landlord provides maintenance and services except for janitorial, and the landlord retains the ability to terminate the lease agreement with 90 days written notice, and the tenant also has the ability to terminate with 90 days written notice if they lose funding. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Emily?
Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 15 is a resolution declaring certain county-owned personal property surplus and authorizing its disposition by public electronic auction utilizing Liquidity Services Operations LLC. Chelsea Swaim, our Deputy General Services Director, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. This item is to declare certain personal property as surplus and authorize its disposition on the GovDeals platform of Liquidity Services Operations LLC. As with past sales, all of the fees would be passed along to the buyer. Our last sale was in September of 2024, and we had a revenue of $9,924.84. The attached to this item list out all of the items that we are proposing for disposition. We do try to reuse items before we put them on this list, and we contemplate the condition, the lifespan, and usefulness of those items. You'll also notice that there are some vehicles on the list. This would be the first time we've attempted to sell the vehicles on GovDeals. Historically, that's been done with public auctions in person. So we're hopeful to see what the outcome is and hopefully get a better participation this time around with a different platform. And if approved, this item would declare these lists surplus and authorize their disposition for a sale beginning on March 10th and ending on March 24th. There would be a viewing period by appointment only from March 3rd to March 14th. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
I'm sorry? There is. It depends on the item. Most of the items start out at $5, but the vehicles will obviously look at the condition, and those will be more than $5.
Thank you, Chelsea. Agenda item number 16 is a resolution of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners to cease appointing board members of the Coalition for Drug Abuse Prevention. Ashley Matthews, our clerk to the board, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Commission on Ending Homelessness has not been active since 2019. The previous executive director, Ava Troxler, she passed away, and no one else took the reins, and the last appointment by this board was in 2018. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
And Part B is a resolution of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners to dissolve the Risk Management Advisory Committee. Shannon Hutchins, our HR Director, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a resolution to dissolve the Risk Management Advisory Committee. The committee was established in 1990, but has not met since December of 2017. Prior to the December 2017, the committee met quarterly to speak about county insurance renewals, waivers, OSHA trainings, and other ongoings of the county. Risk management would provide the committee with updates on what had occurred in the previous quarter and inform the committee on items that had already received county approval. The committee had no decision authority and did not vote or approve transactions. Staff has determined that the committee is no longer needed and recommends that the Risk Management Advisory Committee be dissolved. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Agenda item number 17 is a resolution setting the compensation for the Forsyth County Board of Equalization and Review. Mike Pollock, our Deputy Tax Assessor Collector, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As you know, the Commissioners appoint the Forsyth County Board of Equalization and Review on an annual basis. This board hears appeals and renders decisions on matters such as appraised tax values, penalties, and exemption denials. This resolution establishes the customary compensation provided to the board members per meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
What did they get now?
Currently, it's $100 per meeting. It's, in John Burgess's recollection, that was something established when Pete Rada was the assessor. He remembers Pete increasing it from $75 to $100, or asking the commissioners to do that.
Can I ask an unrelated question? It's related, but it's not related to the money. Sure. This is a question I have been asked twice during the reevaluation season. Someone asked me if they ended up in a formal appeal, is there a chance that their assessment could go up as well as go down?
Yeah, with an informal or formal appeal, there is that possibility.
Would you have an idea how often it goes up? I mean, I would think the probabilities are low, because the reason somebody's appealing is that they think they have documentation and reasoning why it should be less, and I'd be surprised if once you got into it, it ended up being more.
It is low. Typically, when we see values increase during an appeal, it's something like when we find out that maybe our upper story square footage was incorrect, or something that, a correction that needs to be done, that's typically when we do see increases during appeals. There are people that appeal and ask for increases.
Right.
Too, so that occurs.
That's a different issue. Got it. I understand that. Good. Any other questions?
Yeah,
For Mike?
I need more clarity relative to the resolution. My question is, so now they're already being paid $100, correct?
Per meeting, per member, correct.
Per meeting. But then this, at the end of the resolution, indicates if they attended. So if they don't attend, are they being paid or not?
They are not. They're not, no member is it's paid for a meeting that they do not attend.
It's paid for a meeting that they do not attend.
They are not. They're only paid for meetings that they attend.
They attend, okay. Are people not showing up on the board?
Typically, it's full participation. There may be, we schedule these meetings and we kind of ask usually what people's schedules are, but someone might be scheduled for a trip out of town or something. And so, so we don't always have every member there, but most members are there for every meeting.
I'm just trying to understand the rationale for the resolution.
This is honestly just a cleanup item that we should have always had on for documentation purposes in order to pay. We've been paying $100 forever. I recognize you've never seen this item, and so it's like, why are we approving it now? It's something that should have been approved probably decades ago. And in order for tax to pay individuals per meeting, finance needs something in writing so we can cut a check.
So could you clarify whether they attend or not, they're still being paid the $100?
They receive $100 per meeting that they attend.
That they attend, okay.
And if I may add, echoing what the manager just said, this is formalizing something that should be formalized. And so what we may want to think of in the future is putting all the paid board members, including a couple other boards, putting that in the budget. And then it's in a document that we all know, and we don't have to look back and think what was done in 1974 or sometime in the distant past.
That's totally understandable, and I think an attendant list might be helpful too, because if we're repeating people on the board that's not showing up, that's a problem for me. So
I can assure you that's not a problem.
okay, I just wanted to clarify.
But just with any meeting, someone might be scheduled to be on a vacation out of town.
That's
we have several meetings,
understandable,
but it's only issues like that. It's not that people are not attending and we're unaware about that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Good. Thanks, Mike.
Agenda item number 18 is a resolution approving refunds by the tax assessor collector in the amount of $22,869.71. That's just a routine item, unless there's any questions.
Questions? Nope.
All right, and 19 and 20 are reports. 19 is the January contribution-based benefit cap report, and 20 is the January financial report. That's all the agenda items that I have, Mr. Chair.
So the discussion item is everybody should have received, I really appreciate the editorial participation and the changes that we have had to the original draft of our Forsyth County Board of Commissioners Priority Goals Summary. I think I read it again just before this meeting. I really like it personally. I don't know if there are any, I think the county manager's request is that if there are no changes and everybody's good, we could actually approve this on Thursday. So is there any objection to this appearing on the agenda Thursday? Sounds like it's a go. Looks like it. Doesn't sound like it. It appears to be. It looks like it's a go.
I see Blake stares, but I'll take it.
Well, I said I didn't hear anything.
Yeah,
So
this is all your feedback. It's just summarizing your feedback.
Some of us just received it to read it, to review it, so it's okay.
Okay. Without anything else, I'd say we're good. We're adjourned. Thank you.